Welcome to another edition of Front Porch Conversations. Today it's my pleasure to have Bill Leithead as our guest. Bill lives in Park of the Pines here at Advent Christian Village, and I know you'll enjoy getting to know more about Bill today during our conversation. Bill, tell us where the story of Bill Leithead started.
91 years ago, in the dear city of Philadelphia, West Philadelphia. And it was there that I lived and actually made tremendous friends with my neighbors. It was a neighborly neighborhood. I did, actually when I was graduating from high school, I joined the Marine Corps. And it was quite an experience of learning how to take orders. In other words, if you can't give orders until you learn how to take them, was my theory. I developed this for a lifetime. That's about, there's more to it, but you have some other questions?
Tell us something that was really meaningful in your early life.
Well, one of the most meaningful things was the neighbors I met were on the street that I lived. My dad was a Western fiction writer, and he was so busy his whole life doing that or something connected with that I didn't get to know him real well. So I got to know my neighbors. I had a grandmother Yost, I had an Aunt Myrtle, I had an Aunt Anna, an Uncle Bill, and there is where I really got involved with my faith, because they were very loving and loved Jesus, and their lives presented a picture different than I had known. And I was very, very happy to have their friendship. But as I grew older, I began to get interested in some things, and it got into some things to do with high school and the act of swimming. So,
And that's something you've continued your whole life.
I'm still doing it every day, except the weekends. Somehow, during my high school years, I ran into a coach named Benjamin Shapiro, who was I saw the notice of going after the swim team. I came from junior high school and high school, and I was dying to try it because I had never swam in a meet before or anything. But he trained us, and we worked with him I worked with him for 3 years, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And by the time I reached 12th grade, we were so good that he pushed us, and we won the public high school championship for the first time in that school's 28th year of and we were so tickled to death. But one thing I remember so distinctly from when the winning of that public high school event, we threw Ben Shapiro in the pool with his watches on. Would you believe he didn't know how to swim? We never knew. We never knew that before. But we used to. Some of us used to go away with him during the summertime. He would be in the mountains of New York City, in New York State, and he would take care of their exercises and everything. Would coach us on the side. So we got to love the man deeply, and it was an experience. But when it came to going against the Catholic team from the high schools in the city, they beat us, not terribly bad, but bad enough to hang our heads a little bit in disgust. But they had a wonderful swimmer named Joe Verdure, who was from a Catholic high school. He ended up in the Olympics, and he was so good. See, they were allowed to swim so many events. And he was able to swim backstroke, butterfly, freestyle, and he swam in all events. And I think we lost by 3 or 4 points, but it was enough to make us go, wow, what a guy. But it was an interesting way of life, and I had a sweet girlfriend that I was very much fond of. But when I went into the Marine Corps, because I entered the Marine Corps the month after I graduated
From high school?
from high school. So I was only 18, and the reason is that my courses were not college courses. My family didn't have enough money to send me to college. But the course, I knew I had to go further. So I went in the service. I served 2 years, and when I came out, I was able to get the GI Bill of Rights and go to the school. And what did I take up? Plumbing.
Oh.
And I got more to talk about regarding that stage of my life. Would you like to hear about it?
I would.
Good. I was very fortunate because at the time jobs were available. And darn if I didn't get a very good job strictly doing plumbing for maintenance of the Curtis Publishing Company, which printed the Saturday Evening Post down in Center City, Philadelphia. And it coordinated with what I got through the GI Bill and all that, going to night school.
Mm-hmm.
And I went for 4 years at night school, became a registered plumber. In the meantime, working at Curtis, not taking care of toilets. Taking care of huge printers that had joints that constantly leaked, and other things that water was involved, that plumbers using their proper tools were able to maintain it. But it was a scary thing when they got a problem, and here's this printing machine going through about 4 stories. It was a huge building. They made their own electricity, and it wasn't even 60 cycle. It was some crazy cycle that wasn't normal. Philadelphia Electric Company didn't feed them electricity. They made it themselves. And that where the other plumbing part came in, because at weekends we'd have to change a valve or straighten out a relief valve operation. And we had to work where it was like 110 degrees on the top of a boiler. So I worked there until I was about 28 years old. I thought, this is going to be tough when I'm 65 years old. So I looked around and did some inquiring and investigating, and I was able to get an excellent job with an engineering company, one of the best in Philadelphia, United Engineers and Constructors, who built a lot for the city, but I got into engineering of chemical companies, other steel companies. We did a lot for steel companies, American Steel. And it was very, very successful. I worked there for about 35 years and graduated approximately 62 years old. But it was something where I never had to worry about being laid off. It was continual. My marriage was a tremendous thing, which I can get into after this. So a few things about my dear wife, whom I loved so sincerely. But it was an interesting life. There was no need for money. I didn't make billions, but I made enough to do some extra things and produce children, which I'll talk about more. But it was a very good. It led to a very good life by just the fact that I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and then I pushed a little bit, and it worked. So I thank God for that, because I do believe He's had so much influence in my life concerning the goodness that I've come up against. It's just totally amazing.
Bill, where were you? What did you do while you were in the Marine Corps?
In the Marine Corps, because I only entered for 2 years, they were trying to coax me to go more than 2 years. The Korean War hadn't started. Second World War had stopped 45. I went in at 46 to 48. Korea wasn't even in trouble at that time. But I thought, this is something I'm not sure. When I lost my sweetheart, I think, boy, this is not real good. But I didn't want to stay any longer because I knew I'd get the GI Bill. And but what I ended up with was being a guard on entrances and exits to naval bases. And I ended up in one in New England, and also down in South Carolina where they had Parris Island where you were trained. But I'll never forget the time when I was a new person on the entrance and exit. When you finish your duty, you take your weapon out of your thing, you take out the bullets that are in there, and you click it, and you know it's not loaded. Well, I had put a bullet. One time I got so excited, I had put a bullet sometime in the case. When I went like this to shoot the weapon to check that it was loaded, I blew a hole in the roof.
Oh, goodness.
Not a good thing to do. That's a bad Marine. But it was never any training in field work or machines or guns. Oh, I did fire excellent, 100% or very good in the training where we were throwing rifle training, and it gave me an automatic raise, and I made private first class in 2 years, and I was very happy about that. But I was anxious to get home, but I knew my life was growing older and I wasn't going to get anywhere unless I started getting an education. And luckily in high school I had what they call mechanic arts, which trained you not for college but for doing drafting. And then when I became a plumber, I put some of the pipes in because I would work extra and use my plumbing to work and make a few bucks outside. So I knew what working with pipes was and everything, and I became a draftsman in the big company called United Engineers and Constructors, and it was a job that lasted me my whole life. And I was very happy with that, because one thing you need is when you raise a family, you need money to keep them and feed them.
That's right.
I wasn't out to be a millionaire, because it's just money can ruin your life if you think about it the wrong way and give up everything else for just money. But
well, tell our viewers how you met your wife and tell us about it.
Oh boy, that's a day I will never forget. I'd only been out of the Marine Corps a little while when I got an invitation to go to a Halloween party on October 31st, 1948. It was from a church group that I'd gone to church with as I was growing up, and it was an Episcopal church that during my life of between 17, 18, they had dances, and I had this lovely lady was my friend, and we danced, and I just wanted to see what I could do with this. So I went to this party, not knowing her, not even knowing what she looked like, knowing only the person that was running it. Well, when she drove up, she lived in a part of Philadelphia that was about an hour and a half away. Philadelphia is very big. It's got north section, east section, west section. When she got out of the car, believe it or not, she was dressed as Daisy May. I was dressed as a cowboy. And somehow or other, I just took off the thing that made me a cowboy, took the gun off, fake gun. And when she came in the door, I said, "Hi there, Daisy May." I said, "I'm little Abner, how are you?" And we made out so well in that I was so impressed that I thought I was a little shook up because I had never made an impression like that before. We started dating, I think, the week after the party. And the problem was I didn't have a car. And my father never owned a car. Because I could walk to school, I could walk for shopping. But when we dated, I had to get in a trolley car, a subway, and another subway, and another trolley car. If I missed one of those, I was late as the boat. I was late to pick her up even. So we used to change our idea and meet in town, go to a restaurant, particularly Italian, because I love Italian food. And then we'd either go swimming or to a movie, and then so I didn't get lost. Coming home, I would send her back the way she would do to reach her house. And I said, I can't stand this. So we were married on the following September 10th, 1949.
And for our viewers, may I show them this picture?
Absolutely, that's it.
This is the wedding picture of Phyllis.
Yes,
and
of
Bill.
Phyllis and myself, and she made that. She made the hat. She made the dress. Made everything with it, and she was so delicious it was not anything to think about.
A handsome couple.
Thank
and a
you.
beautiful lady.
I even had hair then.
I almost didn't recognize you.
Well, the great part about it was that she was very tied. She was her favorite religion was the Christian faith, and Jesus was her method of being saved. Mm-hmm. And we both got along in that respect. And she was so doggone sharp and everything that I don't ever remember in the whole 68 years of marriage whether we ever argued about anything, because most of the time we've been so cooperative with each other, and she had so many good ideas that I never said, well, I'd rather not do that, we'll do it this way. I just learned, that sounds fine to me. And the other part was, when we were first married, we were married in a Lutheran church, and I've just learned a lot from a course I'm taking here about Martin Luther and what part he played in the Reformation. Mm-hmm. And some things I didn't even know, but it was interesting. After we were married, we were having a little party in a store, the back of a store with food and everything, nothing big and fancy. Mm-hmm. And I was so concerned about certain things going wrong, but nothing went wrong. But we started out because we had never had a car. Her father had one, but she didn't know how to drive, and I didn't know how to drive. There's so many things I wasn't able to see in my growing up as a teenager, which some teenagers who have cars go to the shore, go here, go there. So when we married, we didn't have children for the first four years, because we were running up and down on the highways of Virginia and all the mountains in that area, and just seeing. We wanted to have a little something other than having to raise kids. But then all of a sudden, we just started, and we thought that's about time we thought we'd have children. And we ended up, and this blew everybody's mind, we ended up with 5 children, 4 girls and 1 boy. And it was amazing how that worked out. My friends were so totally surprised, and my mother one day said something to me about, what in the world have you done having all these children? I think she was worried about what she's going to have to give them when she passed away. But no, they were fine. We had no problem with that. That was never any of our thoughts, political or financial problems, because of the job I had with United Engineers was really a sort of a miracle. It worked so well that it was hard for me to believe sometimes. Now, not that there are things haven't come up. In fact, one of my daughters, the first daughter born, is now 66, and it says, such a shame. I'm going to talk a little bit later about Phyllis and her sickness of Alzheimer's or mind problems. But this 66-year-old daughter has starting. And it's hard to believe, because neither my mother or Phyllis's mother had a darn thing wrong with her. My mother lived to be 102, and Phyllis's mother lived to be 101. Phyllis passed away on the 1st of let's see, what month was it? June 2017, after 6 years in the Good Sam nursing home. With every day I visited her, and we had some wonderful times. But I kept her at home for 7 years prior to that. But then it got to a point where she was up at night doing this, and I couldn't handle no sleep. Mm-hmm. So that was what the doctor said, well, then it's time for her to go to the nursing home. And the one reason we moved here was the fact that they had these facilities, and she was concerned about herself, and the urine tract might need to be taken care of by a doctor. But that never happened. But it was good that she was here for in the section where they kept the sick people.
Well, let us show your viewers to a picture of you and Phyllis together.
Good.
And Bill, I will say that I have always admired you for your caregiving role of your wife. That was
well, it was something I thoroughly enjoyed doing, and the one thing that made it, to a degree, livable and durable and understandable. Almost every day, I'd let the bus that runs throughout the village, I'd check with them, call on the phone and talk to get them, and say, tell me what time during the day you're not going to have many people, because I don't want to ride the bus with you transporting people back and forth. So we picked a time when it was pretty clear. And the big tall fellow was the bus driver at the time, and I loved the way he handled things. And what we did when we took a ride, I'd say, "Hey, today we're going to visit India. I want to show you something over there you won't believe." And her mind was far enough gone that she'd say, "That sounds good to me." And then we'd get out and I'd say, "Now, what do you think of that house? Isn't that different? That's an Indian house." "Really?" I said. "Yeah." And we went to Germany, we went to Spain, England, all different parts of the United States. And we did that for years until it seemed to not matter to her. But when she was comforted by it,
right,
and she saw people coming in and talking with her on the bus, just a few here and there, it was easy to handle. I loved to feed her. She finally, she ate of her own volition, almost all the time, except the last year or so. But that was no big problem. When she started not wanting to eat. But the interesting part was that the section she was in, there was a young African-American lady there that was a relative of a man I was very fond of in Live Oak. His name is Earl Carter. He was on the school boards. He was a principal, one of the finest men I ever met. And she was related to him. And when she found out how I felt about her Earl Carter and everything, she took such good care of my wife. It was unbelievable. And I was so grateful for that. And she's still here, and I still see her, because one of the things I do, as far as the village is concerned, I'm very interested in the Good Sam, and I sit for 4 hours each Monday. I'm trying to get more time, because I just enjoy welcoming the people, making sure they know where to go, know how much it means for the patients that they're visiting, and wanting to pray with them or be kind to them, let them know they're loved. It's that Good Sam is one of the most important places in the village, as far as I'm concerned.
And you're important to them as well. Yeah. I want to show our viewers another picture that you brought. And this tells a little bit more about Bill and his love of swimming. And this...
Yes, there I am, bald-headed as an eagle. There's my dear wife. And this gentleman, this was taken at a pool down near Leesburg. I lived in Leesburg about 10 years before coming here. And this fellow was a fellow swimmer, and we all had a good time swimming together. And then he never did it before, and he never did it after. But I had that picture because it shows us we all won medals. I think we swam in Arizona, because our swimming, and this started before I even knew I was going to live here. Every state of the 48 states have a system, and Florida's is the best.
And this is the Senior Olympics.
Senior Olympics for 55 for folks that are 55 and above, and we went all over the place. And Phyllis was very good at the pushing of the things on a court.
Shuffleboard.
Shuffleboard. She won as many medals shuffleboarding as she did swimming, but we had a wonderful life with so much fun and happiness with God in our midst. I'm so grateful for just being able to live.
What else would you like to share with our viewers today?
Well, I'm surely proud of how things have changed, and Jim Shank and his ability to produce the physical changes to this village. When somebody coming through the woods reaches this place, they think, "What in the world is this in the woods?"
Or how did this get here?
How did this get here? And I wish there were more of these kind of places around. And I'm very, very, very happy here. I'm staying because my family's big. 5 children, 14 grandchildren, and on the way to 20 great-grandchildren. It's hard for me to believe from one person. And I'm very grateful to be able to live here. And I think that I'm going to stay here until the very end. I look forward to going into the nursing home. So,
Bill, what year did you and Phyllis move here?
We moved here in the year 2000. So we've been here about 19 years.
And how did you come to know about the village?
We learned about it from being up in New Hampshire, building a nuclear power plant in New Hampshire. And we went to their church up there and met people that were at Lake Winnipesaukee, where they have a conference center. I was totally impressed with the people that would come down here and everything. And it's one of those things where we didn't come right away, but we lived about 10 years in Leesburg, and then made the change. And then we were very happy, particularly to run into the African American Development Council for scholarships. It's been one of my biggest pleasures, because I've gotten better letters from some of the students I've helped than I get from my own grandchildren, and that's fine. Doesn't bother me a bit.
Well, I know you've been very involved in that special program here in this community.
Right. I'm really surprised that I'm this age and still able to go. I just had a knee replacement about a year and a half ago, and I'm making it real well. My poor friend Earl Johnson has now, because of his age, and we're only 7 days apart, and he has moved into the Dacier for assisted living, and I'm praying that he'll be able to accommodate and stay there for a while without problem. But he's going down so bad.
Bill, tell our viewers what you do most every morning.
Every morning, I get up at 4 o'clock because I want to listen to MSNBC, who gives a good report. He's a reporter from the night before. He has an 11th hour report, and he comes on at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I go to bed at 8. I get up at 4. I listen to about 3/4 of an hour of his show. Then I watch a little bit more, and then I go swimming. And they open up a little bit early to let a couple of us in, like Jack Jones and Tom Easter. Mm-hmm. But it's keeping my thing going. I do a little bit of COPD, but I can swim the 20 laps without even getting out of breath. And I know it does my heart and my body good. And I eat very, very limited. I don't eat a lot of stuff that's got starch in it. But it's I seem to be getting a diet that is keeping me as fairly thin.
I think you have a wonderful regime. I envy your determination and your commitment to it.
Thank you.
Makes me wake up. If I wake up at that time and think, "Oh, Bill's there," I think, "Boy, you're a sloucher."
No, you're not. No, everybody has to have their own ideas, and I don't ever. One of the things I just do never try and do is criticize and find fault. And that's a no-no, as far as I'm concerned. Doesn't get you anywhere.
Well, Bill, I think you've shared great advice with people today, and I appreciate your time here today.
Yeah, I appreciate this. You'll never believe how much I appreciate this.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for tuning in today to Front Porch Conversations. Look for the next edition.